42.2, 44.1. We are going old school. We're doing standard def tonight. It might look more like film. We're trying it out. It gives us more flexibility, gives us more time, gives us a different aesthetic.
Tell them, let us know in the comments if they like it.
Oh, so let us know if you like standard def versus high def. Aesthetic probably isn't the right word. Anyway, what are we talking about? The Trump speech?
Yeah.
All right, Trump gave a speech at a rally for a special election candidate in Pennsylvania. He said some unhingey stuff. And are we going to have this argument where, I don't know what he said, he called Maxine Waters low IQ Maxine Waters. He called Chuck Todd, what, sleepy eye Chuck Todd?
Call him a son of a bitch.
And a sleepy-eyed son of a bitch, Chuck Todd. Nice talk from a president. Now you're saying, you want to say what you're saying?
I'm saying that as he becomes more comfortable, he's testing his boundaries now. He's acting out.
Like a 2-year-old?
No, well, kind of. I mean, he's just like. My theory is he knows Mueller's not going to be able to get him, and believe it or not, he's having successes to the point where the sort of success he was promising is there's a possibility that it's all going to come through, and as that happens, he's becoming more and more confident and comfortable. He's not listening to his handlers anymore and just saying, you know what, I'm doing this the Trump way.
Alternately,
I can't be fired, so now I'm just going to put my feet up on the desk and act any way I want.
Alternately, he's reacting to chaos with chaos of his own, and that everything's just spinning out of control.
But nothing is spinning out of control. So,
get all these leakers from the White House. At
least
according to
they're not Republican leakers. They're Democrats that want to try to sabotage his presidency.
So things are either really good or really bad.
No, well, what? I mean, look, there's nothing really bad. This leads into a subject of substance. We should talk about the Korea thing.
All right.
So as of this moment, what we're looking at this point in history, assuming that the people that are seeing this video are seeing it on a normal screen in a normal city and not in some sort of post-Armageddon underground bunker. Yeah. Assuming that there hasn't been a nuclear war when you're watching this. That was professional comedy.
Yeah.
What has happened is the North Koreans have presented Trump with an offer to talk, and
Trump, they have to do it on neutral ground.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's a Hooters across from Penn Station at 33rd and 7th in Manhattan, which would be perfect. They get the wings.
Trump is unlike any of the previous, for 20 years, presidents of the United States have refused to meet with the head of North Korea because they wanted the 6 parties, that is China, Russia, South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. and North Korea all to meet at once. And there were all kinds of preconditions.
Well, they wanted North Korea to give signs of good behavior before they rewarded them with this kind of acknowledgement.
No, it was more like, I'm just talking about how there were many, we had, our main concern about talking with North Korea privately was we wanted the weight of 5 other nations to sort of press down on them. We didn't want to dignify them with 1-to-1. It would be a loss of leverage, we felt, And
Well, some people are saying this is a loss of leverage.
yeah, right, it is. And well, but I mean, that's what people are saying. I don't know if it is or not. But Trump is so ignorant and sort of such a cowboy that he's saying, hey, wants to talk? All right, I'll talk. You know, it's like, this is just, you know, you want to meet me at Rocco's in New York, we'll have a pizza, we'll sit down. So he's just being a guy. He's being a human being. And he doesn't know that there are intricate policies that are being upset by just meeting with Kim Jong-il, I think is his name, or Kim Il-jung or whatever.
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un, that's right. The father was ill, this one is on. But anyway, now I have something to say about it.
Wait, I have something to say about his dad, Kim Jong-il.
Okay.
When you're typing that shit, it's so confusing because the il looks like he's Kim Jong II.
Oh,
It was always a pain in the ass.
all
So
right.
at least that guy's gone and un is
Fair enough.
okay.
Now, my theory is that there's two possibilities here. The first possibility is that this is some sort of trick, but the good thing about it is that as a sort of a precondition, Kim Jong-un actually said that we're going to talk about denuclearizing North Korea. Now, I really don't know what more you can ask. So, I mean, that is as good a precondition as I could possibly imagine.
Is he really saying denuclearizing? Is he saying
he's willing to, he's
willing to give up his nukes altogether, or just not progress?
Yeah, no, one, he's willing to stop all testing during the negotiations, which could drag on for months. And two, he wants to talk about what he would get
If he gave up all his nukes?
Yeah, if he completely denuclearized his country, if he gave up nukes. Now, the real question that the Democrats and the Republicans are arguing about this week is, well, is it because of Trump's policies? Now, in other words, is he doing this because this is part of his secret plan, and this is just the kind of sneaky thing that Kim Jong-un would do? Or has he been forced to the table because of Trump's brutal sanctions?
How much more brutal are the sanctions
The
than other
sanctions
presidents?
are infinitely more brutal
Than
the
any other
presidents.
president?
Yeah. They're the hardest. This is the most isolated that Korea has ever been in the history of Korea. And they've been close to starvation before. Mass starvation.
Well, yeah, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people starved to death.
Right, because of poor economic policies, poor harvests, but also we've always had sort of sanctions on them. But what Trump has done is he's united more of the world than ever to bring them to their knees. That was the goal, which has been very simple. And the thing I like about this is that it's not the kind of thing that requires a PhD from some sort of prestigious think tank college. He's basically said, we're going to squeeze North Korea as hard as we possibly can until they offer to give up their nukes. So, but my first point is, what could be better? And my second point is, how could it not be because of Trump's strategy? What other, it's never happened before, and this is the first time we've really done this. So I think it's safe to say, even though he's a Republican, and even though you hate him, and even though he has funny hair, this is so far a success of his policy. This was his plan, and it looks like it's working.
Well, I got to say what I always say, especially now, because these sound like solid points, which is wait and see. Let's see if the talks go through. Let's see if the nukes go away, or at the very least, I mean, if he manages to slow down their the progression of their nuclear program, that's not a bad thing.
How bad can it be? So now the argument is this, okay? North Korea has done this before. They did this under Clinton. And President Clinton, actually went to North Korea, made a deal. He didn't physically go, but he actually made a deal.
Didn't they invite him and he turned them down initially? When did he go?
Well, he didn't go. I'm not saying he went to North Korea, but Clinton actually made a deal with North Korea that they would give up their nukes in return for nuclear power. We gave them nuclear power and released them from sanctions and just lavished them with tenderness. I believe we gave them their first nuclear reactor. And as soon as the ink was dry, they went and secretly began their nuclear program. And Clinton made a big speech about how he brought peace in our time. And they just lied to him.
Well, they might be lying now, too.
Well, let me make my point. It's fresh enough in people's minds that this time nobody is going to make a deal with them unless it can be verified. And that means inspectors 24/7, anywhere in the country, anytime, and as deep as we
They
need
should
to
bring
check.
their own sandwiches.
So my point is that it is perfectly possible to make this deal, but it has to be an incredibly suspicious system of checks, of inspections, and so it's possible. But as I say, Bill Clinton was completely duped, and one of the like I needed another reason to think that Bill Clinton
He
was
wasn't the
asshole.
only one. Other presidents have tried working with them.
Well,
and
no,
gotten-
actually, Clinton's the only one that actually made this deal, a denuclearization deal that he was very proud of, and they just completely fooled him.
Well, there have been he may have been the only denuclearization deal guy, but other presidents have tried to deal and gotten.
No. The president that was made the biggest fool of was Bill Clinton.
Fine, but he's not the only guy who's tried to make deals with North Korea.
Wait a minute. He is he's the only one that ever got taken in like this. All the other people have just had a standoff with North Korea. Nobody else made a deal and was completely made a fool of. So one more reason why I didn't want to vote for Hillary. No, they completely made a fool.
All right, let's move on.
Wait a minute. There's more.
Because I'm losing
Wait,
too
there's
bad. Let's
more.
no.
I just want to cap it off with one sentence. I'm
All
an
right.
adult. I get to make one more sentence. The sentence is this: If Donald Trump is able to get the North Koreans to give up their nuclear program without firing a shot, he will be the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln.
Well, no, that's ridiculous.
Prove me
FDR,
wrong. Prove me
FDR, we win
wrong.
World War II.
Yeah, we would have won World War II anyway.
With who?
With any president. FDR was not the reason we won World War II. I mean, we just had a bigger and better army than they did. We would have fought with any president.
President for 13 years, takes us through the Depression.
Yeah, his work on the Depression is very sketchy now. The reason we got out of the Depression was because we were the last man
I'm sorry
standing.
I mentioned frickin'
We
FDR.
were the last man standing after World War II. How could we not be a rich country when every other country on earth is completely wiped out? That's how we got out of the Depression. We had a Depression in 1939, while Roosevelt had already been president for about, I think, 8 years. So
6 years.
when was he elected? 32?
32, he begins presidenting in 33.
Okay. My point is that it was World War II that got us out of the Depression, not Roosevelt.
That's what people tend to say now, yeah.
So, quick question. Where you would be really impressed your audience if you could predict where these talks are going to be held or where should they be held.
In my opinion, there are two possibilities here. It's possible the North Koreans would probably like to make a spectacle of having a big ceremonial thing and bringing Trump to their capital, like the Chinese did. And I think that would be a big mistake because that would be too fraternal. Like, come on, we're not buddies. It would just ring very false. So if it was up to me, it would be it would be right in the demilitarized zone, right at the border between North and South Korea. That's where I would like it to be.
Look, Trump likes having fun. Kim Jong-un likes American culture. They could meet at the Paris Disneyland. They got churros. They got all sorts of good food. They got rides.
Okay.
And in the speech last night, which relates to this, Trump emphatically said that he, because of him, the Olympics was a success, and he talked about how people wouldn't have bought tickets thinking that they were going to get nuked by North Korea. You want to comment on that, Rick or Lance?
I mean,
Wait,
that's
Trump was saying that Kim Jong-un was a big success?
that Trump made the Olympics a success.
Yes, because of Trump, the Olympics were a success.
I mean, that's a reach, at the very least. I mean, I don't know. That's just weird.
I have no opinion on that. But as I say, I think that's why Trump is acting so cocky. Because he thinks he's going to solve the North Korean situation. And he damn well might. In which case, yeah, go ahead, Rick. Say what you were going to say.
That would be crazy and good for the world and, bad for my side.
Quick question: is Dennis Rodman? You think they're picking his brain right now, or do you think he should be part of this delegation? Or
No, that turns it into a circus.
I don't think Dennis Rodman was ever acting on his own. I think anybody that goes to Korea is under strict advice from our intelligence agencies. I think that was all for show. And probably when Dennis Rodman is 85, he'll release a book and say, yeah, I was working with the CIA.
I don't know. Dennis Rodman has at several
He's probably
points.
our most dangerous spy, too.
He lived in his his truck for a while. He was sleeping in his truck. He doesn't seem like what's the opposite of a loose cannon? A tight cannon? He's not the tightest cannon. I guess maybe the CIA sat down and talked with him before and after, and
yeah, I'll bet they did. It's just like, come on, guys. What you see in public is not what's really happening.
So, do you think that Trump is colluding with North Korea, Rick?
No, no. No.
Lance?
But I would just like to say, I was trying to think whether he'd be the greatest president I was trying to think who the last truly great president we've had was, and trying to make it as exaggerated or as amazing as possible. Because I do think he will go down in history as one of our best if he denuclearizes North Korea. But it actually occurred to me that Lincoln would probably not be as popular if he was president under the same circumstances today, because Lincoln was such a warmonger. Lincoln was, lost 350,000 Union troops, and the way liberals are today in America, they would not have stood for it. They would have just said, we're war weary, let the South go. So, we lost, 20,000 troops in Iraq with a population of 300 million. And the Democrats were saying that Bush was a monster. If we lost 300,000...
We didn't lose 20,000. We lost fewer than that.
I'm saying with Iraq and Afghanistan, both together.
Both together, I think it's still well under 10,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got that
It's
wrong.
like around 5,000 or 6,000.
In each. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. But what I'm saying is, imagine if we lost 700,000 or 350,000, and the population was only about 20 million.
Yeah, well, the argument,
Imagine
the
what
argument
the
you can
Democrats
make,
would say about Lincoln.
the argument you can make is that we lost the Vietnam War. We lost our eagerness or our willingness to fight the Vietnam War because the war came to TV. We didn't have TV when we lost 1/3 people in the Civil War.
But now it was even worse because every single human being in the country lost a relative, lost a father or a son or a brother. So it was even worse. So I'm saying the American people were willing to fight on, and I don't think they would do that today. And I think Lincoln would be our most hated president if people realized what he pushed this country through with sheer will against all the people, including the Democrats in those days that were trying to let the South go and surrender. No, he had to actually, he was the first Republican president, and he had to fight the Democrats to keep the war going.
Well,
So I don't think Trump will be the greatest president since Lincoln. I think if he denuclearizes North Korea, he'll be the greatest president since Jefferson, who had an absolutely successful presidency. He did no wrong. Everything Jefferson touched
Well, all right.
worked out.
Doing no wrong and Trump are kind of mutually exclusive. If he fixes a problem with one scary-ass country, that doesn't fix his entire administration. But do you want to talk about who were good presidents over the past 100 years, or is that seems boring?
Well, I'll talk about whatever you want. I've said my piece.
Well, let's move away from politics, and we've been here for 12 hours now. It was one of those days where I modeled for Lance's art class, and Lance has been painting. He added like 8 years to my hair, turned me into a silvery fox. Anyway, let's talk about what we were talking. You wanted to talk about Christian apologetics.
Okay, this is going to take me a minute then, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, let's just make it as fast as we can, because it's not the most interesting thing, but if we talk fast enough, it might make it interesting.
All right, I was listening to Steven Pinker, who was sort of debating with Dennis Prager.
He's an arguer against religion, right?
His argument is that society no longer needs religion. It wasn't whether there's a God or it's just that it doesn't, religion is no longer a factor and doesn't need to be and shouldn't be. And Prager was arguing with him on 3 points. And Pinker, who is said to be a brilliant man, had no idea how to deal with these questions, because Prager is an expert in apologetics, which is the study of how to explain religion to the irreligious, how to explain
Especially the tough parts of religion.
the things that sound contradictory and the things that are
Why, if God is good, does evil exist in the world and junk like that?
Yeah, that's called the problem of evil. And, why do people have to die? How can God be good when he lets people die? And all these things. Anyway, so Pinker, even though he's supposed to be a brilliant man, just stepped right in it. He didn't realize he was losing the debate. But Prager just sort of, was very nice to him and said, oh, okay, so you think that. So the first thing that I'll state the 3 questions and you can deal with each one.
No, just do them one by one.
No, but then we don't know how long we're going to spend on each one.
No, that's okay. Just start with the first one.
All right, well, the first one is he said to Steven Pinker, well, you're saying religion doesn't matter anymore. If your car broke down in a dangerous part of America in the middle of the night and you saw 10 men walking towards you, would you be relieved if you knew that they were coming from a Bible class? And Steven Pinker just said, no, it wouldn't matter to me at all. Now, that defies all research.
Okay, that's dumb. That's a dumb counter to that question.
Well, his counter was, no, it wouldn't matter to me because they would be just as likely to commit an evil act as irreligious people. That's what Pinker said, and that's not even borne out in statistics.
All right, well, but the right answer to that is, if you're trying to be Steven Pinker, is to say, well, yeah, I might be relieved, but I'd also be relieved if I knew that they were a bunch of people coming from how to be an ethical atheist class.
Yeah, and then the response to that would be, well, there aren't too many of those classes. That's the trouble, is that there's churches on every street corner in some cities, and how to be an ethical atheist is like maybe one in the United States.
But there are...
And there aren't going to be any more because it's not a big deal to atheists.
Well, or instead of atheist, how to be an ethical just person.
Without religion? Where are those classes? Where can I get into one of them?
There are plenty of people worried about the behavior of their own individual selves.
Sure there are, but do they start classes that people are going to by the million the way churches do?
I don't know, probably not. But
The answer is of
there
course
are,
not.
well, yeah, but there are people who are concerned about behavior and ethics
Of course there are.
who outside a church.
Of course there are. But
So it's kind of a cooked question.
not exactly, because the correct answer for Pinker would have been to say, unfortunately, at this time in human history, I would be relieved to hear that they came from a Bible class because it's extremely unlikely that they were attending the ethical atheist class out in the middle of Albuquerque, New Mexico, that they have every Sunday night. I'm sorry, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, you don't want to generally be in Albuquerque.
Okay, so that's the first thing that he stepped in.
Sorry.
Does that
The second-
does that encompass like Allah as well?
No, because when Prager asked him the question, he was very careful to specify the United States. Because if it was Saudi Arabia, then, God knows what could happen to a guy parked out in the middle
All
of
right,
the
all
street.
right, but
especially a Jew.
Well, it does underline a
Stephen
problem.
Pinker.
It does underline a problem that people do have to come up with ethical systems that outside of religion, because
They do,
They're-
but so far they haven't. That's the trouble.
but they will.
One hopes.
I mean, a lot of the people who are pissed off at how evangelicals kind of excuse Trump's apparently immoral past are. What, you're excusing Trump's immoral past?
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah, but you're not an evangelical.
If I was, I'd still be one of them.
So what if Hollywood would implement evangelical morals? Do you think this Harvey Weinstein situation would ever come up?
Well,
Because isn't that in essence what the Me Too movement is all about? And there isn't anything and I'm just being the devil's advocate here. Aren't
You're being the devil's advocate in support of fundamentalist Christianity.
well, I'm just saying, just putting
It's
the
the way
question.
we have to be
It
these
seems
days.
to me that everything they talk about is always is Christian doctrine. In terms of respect for women, in terms of not committing adultery, sex acts. So, I'm curious.
all right. Throughout this discussion, as it rolls out, I'm going to again and again, I'm going to say that we are going to have to develop non-religious based ethical systems in the increasingly ethically complicated future.
Well, that's fine, but that's not. But Prager still got him.
That's fine, but I mean,
Okay.
but Pinker could have argued it better.
Okay.
And
but it just
and
it
it's
just,
not unreasonable to look at ethical systems of the past, which largely, were linked with religion, to come up with the ethical systems of the future that may or may not be linked to religion.
Okay.
All right, next thing.
All right. Can we do these? I'll mention them quickly, and then we'll go back to the one to them. Okay. The second question is, so Prager says to him, how that one of the things we know for certain is that from nothing, nothing comes. And so how could the universe just create itself? Well, let me just finish, because I know just let me finish.
All right,
Otherwise
all right.
I can't develop
Okay.
the point. So Pinker falls into the same trap that all atheists fall into. And he says, well, that's easy. We don't know that. But how could God create himself? It's just the same thing. And Prager very quickly said, well, no, sorry, Mr. Pinker, it's not, because a spiritual being doesn't have 3 dimensions and live in time. So for those who believe in a God, the answer is that God doesn't get created. But for those who don't believe in a God, there's simply no explanation and may never be. Anyway, Pinker didn't understand that a spiritual being doesn't get created. Now, did you want to
Is
respond?
Pinker a physics dude at all?
No, he's a social psychologist.
Well, I mean,
And a
so all right,
sociologist.
so no wonder he's bad at this.
I think he's a social psychologist. He writes books about sort of how people behave and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But he's not a philosopher, because these are basic questions that have gone back thousands of years. The Greeks dealt
So
with
why
these
is
questions.
he our dude to argue, against
Well,
frickin' Dennis Prager?
he's not, and actually, this is why I brought it up, because if you're going to say that religion's not necessary and write a book about it, you should at least know what the age-old arguments are for a belief in God.
Well, no, you should maybe you
And
should know.
have-
Well, hold on, you should maybe know that, but you should also know newish arguments about the nature of the universe. So you can.
Well, let me just finish one more question that Prager ran by him, and then we can talk to your heart's content.
Okay.
The third question that Prager asked him was, he said, listen, if there was no God, people would still do good and bad things, but it would be a matter of opinion what things were good and bad. And Pinker said, no, that's ridiculous. We would sit down and we would reason out what's best for humanity, and we would come up with an ethical system and still have right and wrong. And Prager said, no, we wouldn't, because there would be tribes and societies and countries, and have always been, even up to the 20th century, where people said, well, we don't want to do what's best for humanity. We just want to do what's best for our clan and our family. And whoever's strongest gets what they want.
All right. So you got 2 questions answered, but let's break and we'll come back and
All right.
hash that.